There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
Yeah? Okay. Well, don't look at us.
I think we're here.
I think we're here. Episode what? 105? Because we did so many .2 and .3s. And
we did a lot of shows during Black
we
Friday.
did a little
for sure,
sham wowing. We've been here since then.
Yeah, right,
right.
never left.
Cool. So we have the Big Finish show. So we tried to end the year with a bang. Mm-hmm. Really blow it out to make sure that everybody's getting those rods right and tight for the holidays. Because we know that the finish can either make or break a rod build. You know, you can do some really cool stuff, really nice guide wraps and some decorative work. And if you just throw that finish on there, it's like,
Yeah.
almost.
Just
team.
didn't cut it.
Yep, just not quite
Yeah,
there.
finish, thread finish is one of those. It's, when it comes to the measurements, when it comes to the mixing, when it comes to the application, each one of those steps and many parts of that in between and throughout can be a challenge. So that's one of the probably the hardest steps in rod building to really fine tune and get nailed down. It just comes with practice and finding that epoxy, which we're going to go over. Plenty of the brands that we offer. Yeah, we got the table's loaded tonight with all kinds of good products.
Yeah, we'll let you guys argue in the comments about which one is the greatest.
Yeah, for sure. But we're going to go over different types of epoxy, the low build, high build, light build, high build, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Different brushes. You're going to show us a little bit of how to thin epoxy, which is something we haven't really talked about too much before.
We're going to talk about it. There might be some, arguing going on.
There always is.
But hey, that'll be part of the fun.
We got some color preserver in the mix, along with some a new product we're going to highlight. Got some new reel seats we're going to show in a white gloss finish. It's pretty cool.
Right.
Obviously, you got to have some brushes to apply the epoxy, so we're going to go over the different types of brushes. So yeah, lots of good stuff on tap for tonight.
I mean, I'm in the holiday spirit. I don't know about you. Are you? You got your eggnog ready?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I went through and I put some color preserver in my eggnog, and I think it's really going to help get us through the show. Is exactly what we're going to do. So, speaking of new products and speaking of color preserver, also we're joking about drinking color preserver. We do have a new product from the Gen 4 line of products.
Yeah, put this over here.
Yeah, put your eggnog back there.
Yeah.
So tell us all about that, Mr.
So
Hunter,
yeah,
man.
I'm gonna leave it right here on the table so our man Justin can get a good zoom over there.
He's not gonna chase you around.
No. I learned my lesson. I should know better by now. It's
only 105.
Hey, look at that. Perfect. We'll leave them right there for you. So, Gen 4, new product from Generation 4, Mr. Andy Deere of Axis Outdoors. He brought us a new color preserver called Vivid. If you at home, any of you guys at home, guys and gals have followed along, in the past few years, Generation 4 thread finish is very popular in the industry, lots of rave reviews, and now Andy has introduced a new color preserver to complement his product offering. And from the feedback I've seen online and in some of the Facebook groups, it is definitely highly accepted by the rod building community. So cool product there. Obviously, color preserver in itself has been around for a long time, whether it's Flex Coat, U40, Pro Seal, you name it. A lot of the epoxy.
Yeah.
Chroma Seal was one once upon a time.
Right.
But they all each formula acts a little bit different. Most are acrylic based, but that doesn't mean that they all function or act the same. The end result is, obviously fairly close to the same.
Yeah.
You're preserving the color of a non-treated thread, but they have their nuances. Each one does. So
For sure.
Yeah.
And I like mine for marbling.
Yeah.
And that's about where my
your color preserver stops right there.
Yeah. I will say though, I do use color preserver, and I'm lying, but I do use color preserver when I am using decorative thread work that is Madeira or a type of thread that is coated to go through a sewing machine. So we get that question a lot. That's like, well, what happens if I want to use this thread, or this one is a polyester that I got from Michaels, or the color preserver helps all that, right? So what ends up happening with something like Madeira, and it's wonderful for thread wraps and things like that. We don't necessarily recommend to put it for guide wraps, but you can, as long as you use color preserver. So the color preserver is what's going to seal off the Madeira from reacting with the rod finish. And it's not the thread that reacts with it, it's the coating that is on that thread that can cause it to fisheye or get wavy or whatever. And I'm sure somebody's going to be like, well, I don't have to. It doesn't happen to me. Well, maybe not. But if I had to, bet on it, that you're probably going to have an issue with a silicone or a treated thread that is made to go through a sewing machine if you just put finish on it without using color preserver.
Yep.
So,
cool.
Yes.
Moving on to our other new products, I guess I should say. So through the American Tackle brand of products, we are releasing, this is kind of in multiple stages, but one of the first releases in the Shiroi product lineup of American Tackle products is a couple of the new reel seats that we have up here in white. So we have the Dagger reel seat, the Arrow, we've got the E seat and the P seat. You'll notice all of these have the ULH hoods on them. We are also going to be offering the G2 handles to complement these in white, along with the reel seat inserts, and also the foregrip hoods that go with these. And last but not least, a few of the Bushido popular selling models of blanks will also be in white.
Gotcha.
So you'll essentially almost be able to build out an entire completed rod in this kind of gloss white colorway. From your reel seat to your G2 handles to your blank, all of that can color match together. So
Well, I'll be.
Yeah.
And one more time for the folks at home, what's that series called?
Shiroi.
Shiroi?
Yeah, just say it real fast.
Is that what it is? All right, cool. I'm glad we got Hunter to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so.
What else you got?
Yeah, what else I got?
on.
Moving right along. All right, so some of you might know. Oh, we got Jim Crowley in. Hey, Jim, how you doing, man? We're going to talk about you in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but before we get to Jim, there is an international rod building challenge. I'm not quite sure what edition this is. It's been going on for a while. I don't know, maybe 70, 80 years, I think. American Tackle used to do this, and it is really, really cool. There's a wonderful following behind it. And of course, you're going to get $1,500 as a prize for the winner. Now, the twist in this whole thing is if you run over after the show, don't do it now because you're going to miss us. There is a Facebook group for the International Rod Building Challenge. You'll see it on the screen right here. All the rules are down the right-hand side in the About section. Now, the fun part about this is you don't know what rod blank you're getting. It is a three-piece, and that's all we tell you. So it is a mystery blank. You can buy it at mudhole.com. The costs are in there that you're looking at on the screen for domestic and international shipping so that everybody can, play along in this whole thing. Limit 2 blanks per person, and then through the whole deal, it kind of runs through the fine print, right? And I'm not going to lie to you, I have seen some really, really cool stuff come out of this competition. Absolutely. I mean, stuff that makes you go like, oh, hang on, I'm going to take a picture of that. I'm going to take that back to the house and see if I can recreate it or do something similar or whatever. And it's just a blast, and I think it does a great job of bringing the community together. For those that are in the rod building, the Mudhole Live Rod Builders Workshop, this is another great group to be a part of if you're not already in it, because you're going to just see a lot of cool stuff. And I like the part that it's like, you kind of don't really know what you're going to get, right? Like, are you going to get something that you can catch sailfish with? Or are you going to get something that you're going to catch a crappie with?
Right.
And of course, you got to kind of tailor, what what you're going to do and how you're going to build to the blank you got. So,
It's pretty cool. Everyone kind of starts with a clean slate. Obviously, 3-piece, but it's still a mystery blank, so you don't really know what you're getting. But everyone starts on the same clean slate, and obviously your imagination can take you wherever you want. So it's really cool to see the end product for.
Boy, wouldn't it be wild if you get the blank and it's a fly blank? I could see the people just grimacing, and they're just like, "Really? Are you going to hit us with that?" Maybe next year.
But hey, that's the challenge of it all. So.
That's part of it. That is part of it. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, Jim Crowley is joining us. I had the pleasure of meeting Jim and kind of walking him around the warehouse and picking his brain on how he likes to fish and what he likes to do, while he was picking my brain on what blanks to use as he learns the entire product line here at Mudhole, which is an undertaking. And I tell you what, it's very refreshing to meet somebody that loves to build, who's a talented angler, who's great to be around. I mean, he's a blast.
He is, yeah.
And I like he had his notepad out. He was taking notes because, as a fault of my own, I'm not a note taker.
Right.
And my grades in school would reflect as such. So, but it was great because he was in there taking notes, and, we got to compare, like, what do you like to do for a vibrating jig? What do you like to do for a spook? What do you like to do for a Texas rig? And it's really cool because he was then kind of like, you could watch his mind just turning, and he's like, "Oh man, that's really cool." And I'm like, "That blank is cool, plus it's in 14 colors." And he was like, "Just stop it, just stop it." Anyway, so enough of pumping Jim's tires. He's got a podcast, and it's a great podcast. Coming tomorrow night, 6:30 Central Time. So we do this Eastern. He does it 6:30 Central, so that's 7:30 Eastern for those that don't own a globe. And it's on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, Hunter, I know that I am a great guest for you on this show, but he's got Denny Brower.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, right? He's got Denny Brower, who's a member of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Like,
that's very impressive.
That's way more impressive.
It's one of the biggest names you can get in bass fishing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, look up Jim Crowley, and his really, really cool. He's got a show and he's got a podcast. And you got no excuse now. 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on Facebook and Instagram. He's got Denny Brower chatting it up. So that's what we got. And another guy that we work with on a regular basis, Jake, who is the mullet man / what else did you call yourself? It was like the mullet man, the second coming of Farrah Fawcett, some other stuff. I don't know. I've never seen somebody that writes a better bio about themselves than Jake. I'm telling you, it is. He nails it every single time. But the really cool thing is, all jokes aside, Jake is joining Bill Faulkner on Mastering Rod Building Podcast's latest episode. That's number 19. So if you're a podcaster and maybe you just get stuck in Atlanta traffic a lot, listen to Jake. He'll tell you all about social media for rod building and some other stuff. He'll make you laugh. Be aware, though, a lot of things are sick. So just be prepared. That's a good thing. And he's going to walk you through talking about social media, rod building, how he got started. We used to actually see him running around like high school bass tournaments and teams and doing things like that. Then he started showing up here and building rods. And he caught all of our eye because he was building some really cool stuff when, like, most of his other buddies, were having trouble walking and chewing gum at the same time. So we could see the talent there way, way out of the gate early. So he's now at Mudhole, and it's sick. So check it out. And Bill's podcast is also really, really good. Jake's on episode 19. So anyway, enough of that. Oh, I don't know. What was that question? Hang on, I just missed it. Somebody asked if you had found an intern yet. So I don't think that we have found an intern for Mudhole social media. And actually, it's more than just that, right? There's multiple brands, multiple channels, all kinds of things that are social media. It's sick. And Jake is still looking for somebody. He's got 150 people lined up for interviews. They're sleeping outside. You would think that
wrapped around the building.
That's it. Yeah. It's like they're a bunch of Swifties, but they're I don't even know.
Oh, yeah,
we're
careful.
we're just gonna slide right by that one. Anyway, so we got 432 people in here. Let's talk about the giveaways because that's why they really came.
Yeah, the most important part.
Hunter, you're all paid up. You're ready.
I hope so.
We're gonna set
I
that
hope so.
credit card on fire tonight.
So, first giveaway of the night, third place, ProProducts 4-rod supply kit. That'll be the Pro-SK2 kit. Got some good stuff in there, Pro Coat, Pro Paste, cups, mixing sticks, etc. Right?
Well, the essentials, right?
Yeah, all the essentials to build 4 rods. Good prize there. Second place prize of the night, it's going to be a CRB rod drying tint, which is a favorite among a lot of viewers at home right now.
Yeah, we're going to show you how to use it tonight because it's
a lifesaver.
Oh, yeah.
All those, pesky bugs that might get in your epoxy, you ain't got to worry about that anymore.
Or if you're like a crazy closet cat lady or something, or cat dad, and you don't want us all to know about it, probably need the CRB
Cat dad.
The old
I know
cat dad. Yeah, I don't know.
Grand prize. Pretty cool prize tonight. We usually do a rod kit, right?
Yeah.
But we got something better. So this is a...
As seen on episode 100.
Yeah.
It's back.
As seen before.
Yeah.
This was featured on our 100th episode extravaganza. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you are, the winner did not claim their prize.
Yeah.
So this rod was built in-house by the Mudhole crew, including yourself, Jake. Ryan did some really cool pin artwork. So a good collaboration of all or some of the employees here at Mudhole.
Yeah, we asked them, do they want the rod or do they want to double it and give it to the next person? And they said double it and give it to the next person, but we didn't build another one. So here it is, right?
So anyway, this is going to be the grand prize for tonight. It's got some really cool gold guides on here, as well as the
that was
wraps.
Mike Ward, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Mike Ward.
Yep.
Again, thank you, buddy.
So really cool rod build, and we're going to give it away. We're going to try to give it away again tonight. So.
That's it. Tom was saying, go ahead, Hunter, break out that credit card.
Oh,
well, he paid for all of it because that is that's an Elite Series, Elite Pro, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Satin black.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Elite Pro Series blank. So, all right, let's just get down to it, and let's go ahead and start off with something that's going to get people arguing. How about that? So
that's pretty easy.
Yeah. So I did a little homework, which is rare for me. Not for rod building, do homework in general.
Just in general.
Yeah. Sorry, Mom. But so in terms of doing my homework and talking about thinning epoxy, people can get pretty heated on this topic, which I love because we can poke the bear a little bit and then we get to stand up here and say what we think. And then you guys get to be in the comments and either agree with us or mock us on social media. So it's great. So way back in the day, rod builders had one finish, right? And it's pretty wild because I couldn't imagine with all the back and forth and everything today on this finish is great and I don't like that one and this does this, whatever. Imagine if you had one finish. Is what it is.
Simplify things. I don't know.
Yeah, it might, or it would have just been well, then make a better second one.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you had one epoxy, right? And now somebody's already oh, thinning epoxy. Where's my pop?
Yep.
So you had one finish, right? And we'll just call it flex coat. It was one viscosity, right? There was no high build, medium build, low build, average build, dad build. There was none of that. There was one rod finish. And people started being well, I don't want that rod finish that I use on my 80 to 130 to be the same rod finish on my 3-weight because it's too heavy. Maybe it globs on too much. I can't get it as thin as I want, or I can't get it to penetrate the threads on a really tiny guide wrap, or something like that, right? Everybody had their reasons for why they loved it or didn't like it. And so they started thinning that epoxy. And a couple of people did it a few different ways, right? They started using acetone, some tampered with some other things. And then, of course, as we moved on in life, some people were well, you shouldn't use acetone, or you shouldn't use this one, or this is bad for you, or this state doesn't sell it anymore, those kinds of things. So Now you have a deal where you have low build and or light build, however you want to call
Same.
it, right? Low build or light build. And I want to say, I want to say that started coming in around like the early 90s.
Okay.
When they finally got around to being like, all right, you're right. We should do a low build or a light build. Again, I don't really know how accurate that is, but the person that I talked to, I'm pretty confident, and at least we got it within about 5 years, right?
Close
So
enough.
we'll call it the early 90s. So the early 90s came around, and then they started doing a light build or a low build, and that solved some of the problems. But if anybody has ever talked to a rod builder for more than 5 minutes, it certainly didn't solve all the problems. I can promise you that. So back to thinning epoxy. Now, I was taught to thin epoxy in maybe not the manner that you were taught to thin epoxy. So just bear with me. I also thin epoxy like never. I'm also, a culprit of using an alcohol burner, which everybody can go ahead and gasp at. But I like to thin my epoxy with heat. But that's as I'm putting epoxy on, right? I will put epoxy on a guide wrap. I'll do like epoxy, and come back to the first one, add a little bit of heat, make sure it gets under the guide wrap, fills the gap that's down in here in the foot, and then we move on. That's also because I am a one coat person. Again, freak out. But I'm also not making art that so many of y'all are making. I'm literally making a fishing rod to go out and work and
Fish?
fish.
Yeah.
And it's not, it looks good. I don't have a bunch of crazy tag ins and some ugly stuff on there. My guides are on straight. They might be on the spine or not. I don't really know. But yeah, I build it and I fish it and it's a workhorse. So most of the thinning comes in where I have played with a little bit and where I have also been like recommended to do so is you might have heard something called a sealer coat. So either you can thin epoxy, put it on, and you're literally applying it and it's going to almost look or even act like color preserver, okay? Like not to preserve the color, but it is going to be water.
Very thin coat.
Thin it to the point of water, or I don't even think, they don't even let us play with permagloss anymore up here, but that'll be a whole nother show. Anyway, so you want to thin it to like the consistency of water. And, one of the better points of this is going to the source of Flex Coat. They actually give a little bit of a recommendation on like how you should thin it. So I'm gonna walk you through that and then we'll talk about it. If you want to go ahead and pull some finish out for me.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll do that. So pick one, any one. We'll just like blindfold me. So we're looking at mixing epoxy, both parts, and we're going to mix them. Once it is mixed, we are then going to thin it. I don't thin it before we mix it. I don't put thinner in part A and not in part B or whatever. We're going to mix it with syringes, which I know some people like to mix it by weight, even though it's not made to be mixed that way. Mix it with a syringe, and then we're going to thin it using denatured alcohol. Not saying you can't use acetone, but I just don't have the need to have acetone hanging around. I don't really want to mess with it. And remember, I also use denatured alcohol in my alcohol burner. So, two birds, one stone here. Now, when we're thinning it, we are going to mix it. And I was told by FlexCoat, and I'm not throwing them under the bus here, I'm giving them a nod because it's their product and they were the one that brought us up in this whole thinning thing. You could just use the backside of that brush if you want.
Get one of these sticks right here.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, when you're mixing epoxy with a stirrer stick, use plastic. Do not use a wood stirrer stick. Don't use like, something that is porous. You know, use something that is round. Don't use something that has flat sides. Me particularly, I don't like flat-sided because when I'm stirring it, I feel like I'm going to like accidentally fold in some air bubbles if it is not round. I think it helps people, myself included, and people just getting started, to use a stirrer stick that is round. I also use the back side of the yellow brush a lot, or if you're a purple brush person, use the back side of that one. So anyway, we mix the finish. Mix it slow. We're not making an omelet here. You're going to mix it slow. We say to set a timer, and I understand that I might be going through things that a lot of the really, really seasoned rod builders out there already know. So I apologize to you because I'm talking to everybody here. So just bear with me if I'm saying things that you already know all about. So we are either using an epoxy mixer, one, because we can put it together, set it aside, and it does its job. We've got it here on the back table. It's always ready to rock because we really, really like it. Or if we're going to mix it by hand, you're going to mix it, set a timer, and then also in your head go, okay, I'm going to mix this for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. We're never mixing it for any less than that. And then stop when you think you get there and look down and go, wow, I still have a minute and a half left. We all think that we mix it enough, and you probably don't. And I really hate to be that guy, but if you have an epoxy problem, it is typically one of two things. You either measured it incorrectly or you didn't mix it correctly. I understand that that is a hot button for people. I understand you want to blame the finish. But man, we play with all these finishes all the time. If you look on this table, there is not a finish on this table that is brand new. That one's half empty, that one's half empty, that one's half empty. Oh no, that one is a little amber, but yet somehow it still comes out perfectly clear. All of these have all been used. When we say we use all of them, and we say they all finish, and we say they all will work, I promise you, they work. But pick your finish. If you like it, stay with it. I mean, we sell them all. So I'm okay if you want to buy Gen 4 or if you want to buy ProCoat. But I'm also not going to call somebody an idiot if they can't get one, that they hate one or they don't like one. Trust me, they all work. Just take the time, measure them correctly, and mix them correctly. And it's amazing. It's like magic, promise you. So anyway, back to thinning. I have a glass eyedropper, okay? The reason that I have this glass eyedropper is that, to me, the glass eyedropper has the least amount of chances to bring contaminants into your finish. Because when we're starting to introduce some other things, you know, you might have like a plastic pipette. I have no idea if that plastic has silicone in it, which is like enemy number one of rod finish, okay? So I use glass and I sterilize it. Now, back to the individuals that are smarter than me that came up with this. The typical thinning ratio is 15:1. Just going what I've been told here and what I've tried and what works. So 15:1, right? So if you have 15 cc's of finish and you're finishing like 30 rods at one time, put your cc of denatured alcohol in there at 15:1, okay? If you got to do a little math, we have 3 cc's in here, okay? Now, and this is where a little argument comes in. You don't really know how much is in a drop of water, right? I did a little research. I tried to do a little measuring. I have been told that it's about 0.05 mLs in a drop of water, like the bloop, right? One drop, 0.05 ml. We do the math. I hope it's right. 0.2 of an ml or 0.2 cc's is 1/15 of 3 cc's. So 0.05 for one drop. You got 4 of them to get to 0.2. Pretty sure that's right. I hope.
Yep.
So we are going to take an eyedropper. We're going to put denatured alcohol in it. Okay. Some of them I have seen have a graduation on it. And it will say like 0.25 ml or, you know, whatever per drop. So if you need 0.2 or you need 0.25, go ahead. So Hunter has me some really, really nice epoxy mixed up in here. So we're going to try 4 here real quick. And then we're going to mix it. And it's getting pretty thin, okay? And you can see how much it changes. Now, with a lot of other things, I would do this on a test blank before you start doing this on something that is going to require, like, you know, somebody's Christmas present, right? I wouldn't do this right out of the gate. And you also might, you know, take into account, I don't know if y'all, like in Colorado and stuff, when you're mixing your finish or you're doing these kinds of things, if you have like changes with altitude and stuff like that, might be something to consider, right? So we're going to come over here. And one of the reasons that I like to thin finish is, you want to put me on a, oh, change my band over there for me.
Yeah, you were good to go. Wrong button.
Oh, wrong button?
Yeah.
I figured it was your fault.
All right, give her a shot now. Oh, you want it on dry. I'm sorry. Thought you were trying to get a wrap. There you go.
All right, cool. Now, what I will do sometimes, though, is I will go ahead and start on that foot. Whoop. I like to start, I got to turn it here, sorry. So the foot's down here at the end, okay? I actually like to start down here when I'm putting finish on, all right? Now, I will turn the dryer like this, and I'll have a couple guides in a row on the top. And I will go down them, and I'll do 1. See how much it wants to drip and run off? Look at that. So we got it fairly thin here. So I will put 1 there, and then I will go down the rod blank and go 1, 2, 3, 4, typically. And then as it soaks down around that foot, because I am also trying to eliminate, you ever get the air bubble that's like right here along the foot, and it just looks terrible and it's super, super frustrating? So that's what we're trying to avoid here, and it allows that finish to work its way in. And then you come back, just got to get that button thing right, you know? So then we come back and we start adding some finish. Now, I am always somebody that likes finish to turn towards me. I don't know, did we have this argument before?
I think we have.
Okay. Or no, that was Matt Stefan, I think. So anyway.
Yeah, you and I agree. Towards you is the way to go.
Yeah, towards me is the way to rock, right? Now you can see here, this thread is darkening considerably, right? Which means that there was no color preserver put on here. But I did do a wide trim band. These are the same color purple. I promise. You got to take my word for it. Okay? Same color purple. And you can see one has color preserver on it and the other one doesn't. Now, if I would have put finish on these, go down all 4, then I come back in, I use this thing, alcohol burner, and I'm just like, I'm doing a little waft here, right? Just underneath it. Because in reality, it doesn't matter what heat source that you use. If you lean it on this rod blank, you get it up under here for a while, you can burn this blank, okay? And if you burn it, you'll put like a real nice sag in it and you'll deform it and it'll be a mess. And it doesn't actually take that much to create that problem. Now, one thing I wanted to show you guys here is look at the finish here. That doesn't, you can't see that. Hang on. Let me try to turn this a little, because that's an important part.
You want to rotate a little bit, or are you good right there?
No, it's the thing that I want them to see is, and I'm sorry, I probably should have looked at this. This finish, yeah, right there. Oh, sorry. the finish is wicking up the foot. You see it here? So see, there's finish right there, but if you look on the bottom, there's no finish here. You see that? Now, in that finish, you can actually see like the little bubble on the bottom. You can see how thin that finish is, right? But look at the finish wicking up that foot, okay? So what that's doing is exactly what we want it to do, is we want it to fill this cavity. We want it to wick up the foot, thinning it, and also the heat is going to help it wick up that foot. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to fill this part of the foot and this part of the cavity before this part, because if you have it properly wrapped, really, really nice and tight, the air has a really hard time actually escaping out through this thread, and it's going to want to go this way out what would be a tunnel, but it can't do it. So we got a really, really big problem, okay? So I'm going to get that button, I'm telling you. So then once we kind of have it wicking up, then we can kind of push the finish around, and we're just going to get our threads coated here. And this is probably even more finish than we would typically put on for the quote sealer coat. You really want to be able to see like the grooves in the thread. Like you want to look down the foot and actually be able to see the grooves in that thread. That is really why that we are thinning the epoxy for this coat, okay? You don't even have to get it out on the rod blank, really, because it's going to come and it's going to fill that tunnel, and we just want to make sure all the threads are covered and, you know, fully wicked. And you can see the difference. That purple there is color fast, and that purple there is nylon. So as we're working with this, if you have too much finish, if you've got too much finish on there, it probably won't drip off on this because we just used barely enough to like coat it. But this is what we'll do. Add a little heat and it'll drip off. So, oh, and also the alcohol burner, you don't have to fill it to the rim, okay? Like put you just like a little bit in there, right? So no need to fill it to the rim if you are nervous about using one. But anyway, so that is kind of your skim coat. You can't really see the threads, so I probably put more than I typically would. This would be more of a, an offshore build. But you also don't notice like a big giant cavity of finish out the back here either, because all we want to do is fill that tunnel, get the threads sealed, and then if we come back in here and we realize like, oh man, I really didn't cut my tag good enough, or I didn't do some of the things that I should have done when I wrapped it, and some of those things are avoidable. You can come back in now and trim out, and take care of some of those things before you put your final coat on. When we put our final coat on, I do not thin my finish, okay? I am only thinning it because we are using a, quote, sealer coat. So
yeah, and just my opinion on this, if you are doing multiple coats, the amount of epoxy you just put on, honestly, a little too much. You almost, if you're doing 2 or 3 coats,
yes,
you almost want that first sealer coat. You almost want to be able to visibly see the thread.
just the ridges, right?
Exactly, the ridges of the thread, and not have the epoxy over top of the thread. Just the thinnest little coat on top of that thread.
Yeah, because that one in the light, like there's a couple pieces and parts there that you can see it, but some of it looks a little too glassy. So yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, it's almost, you always want to err on the side of less than more.
Yeah.
Because you always think like, yeah, I think that's enough. And in reality, you can actually go a little bit less than that. It's epoxy in multiple coats, you can always err on the side of thinner than, heavier.
Yeah, and that I actually saw somebody had a comment that was in the chat even before we started the show. They said, like, I get wavy finish. Wavy finish is typically because you are putting too much finish on in like one motion, right? It's not because you put 6 individual coats over 6 different times. It's because you were just like, I'm gonna use all this on this one guide, or it typically happens over like a decal.
Yeah.
You know, it's because you just put too much on.
Yeah. If you struggle with having level epoxy, try thinner coats and try more of those thinner coats.
Yeah.
So while, it might have taken you 2 coats previously, try 3, but just back off the amount of each one of those coats.
Yeah.
And you should have a much better final, not only cleaner, but more level finish.
Yeah. We'll hit this one here real quick. Logan G, what is the benefit besides for fixing mistakes of doing several lighter coats as compared to 1 or 2 thicker coats? So, like you said, outside of fixing mistakes, you can actually help prevent some mistakes that are solely finished base, which one is when you just flat out put too much epoxy on it. We call it a football. So it would be if, you got a guide wrap like this and you look at it from the side and your finish looks like this. It's got a big mound.
Almost like the hump on that Aero reel seat right there.
What's that reel seat called again?
Aero.
Okay.
Yeah, Shiroi Aero reel
Anyway,
seat.
yeah, so he's exactly right. It will look like a football, right?
Yep.
So we call it a football because it looks like a football and we're all very smart like that. So when you're using multiple coats of finish, you can actually avoid some like finish mistakes rather than like, just, we can go back and fix some because we're using a very thin single coat. You can also prevent mistakes too. So Logan, that's kind of, with that. I mean, I even might, with nobody else looking, I might just fish that coat.
Oh, you definitely could.
I'd probably just fish that. I know everybody would freak out, but I'm probably going to fish that coat, especially if it's on like a fly rod or something.
And with lighter coats, going back to your application of that guide, you want that thread to absorb that finish. Your thread holds the guide foot to the rod, and the finish protects the thread. That's the order of operations there.
Yeah.
So it's really imperative on that first coat of thread finish that the thread soaks up that epoxy. And even like you mentioned, the kind of the tunnels on each side of your guide foot, it's really important that you get that thread saturated in those areas and get all of that air pushed out of those pockets. So there's a lot more to it than just slapping some epoxy on and try and do it in one coat and fish the next day, like
we have.
We've all been there. We've all done that. Not saying that's wrong in certain applications, but if you really want a rod that's going to last literally a lifetime or 10, 20 years, some of the steps that you do now can be very impactful in the future.
Yeah.
So.
And also, I've never really like officially put a timer on it, but I have been told, and I've kind of gone back and thought to myself like, oh, that did seem that it lasted a little longer. You have a little more working time with the alcohol the way that we thinned it, okay? So I think everybody would like a little bit more working time in finish. So that, to me, it did feel that way. I have never really truly tested it, sat it down and was like, all right, Hunter, mix it, go, you do that one, I'll do this one, and then we'll figure it out. But I have been told, and I have thought about after, I go down the rod and I'm like, oh yeah, I do feel like I do have a little bit of extra time. Now, a word of caution. I have no idea because I don't have, I just don't have the guts to test it. I have no idea what that finish is going to do over a decal, but if it was me, there is no way that I am going to put that thinned finish over a decal. Again, I would love to hear you guys do it, but sometimes I just don't have, I just don't feel like doing it and it getting under the decal and messing it up and then having to redo it and all that stuff. And that's also why, it's not why I'm thinning epoxy anyway, the finish anyway. So it doesn't matter So I haven't done it. So if that was going to be a question, I just want to go ahead and, cut you off right there.
Yeah.
Then I'm not going to put it on the, on a decal. So.
I tell you what, let's do a giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
And then we need to talk about brushes. But before that, I want to talk about a couple of different types of epoxy and also kind of our quick 101. We've done this a million times.
Do you want to put some color preserver on that one while you're doing that, or you want me to put it on while you're talking?
Yeah, you do it while I'm talking.
I want to see if we got like enough time to put it on and dry.
But let's do a giveaway first.
We're going to use the Vivid.
Yeah, let's do the Vivid.
Okay.
Let's do the giveaway number 1. It's going to be the ProProducts 4-rod supply kit.
Sweet.
Some Pro Paste, some Pro Coat, mixing cups, brushes, sticks.
I hope it's
There's a lot of good stuff in it.
I hope it's the guy's name is like Steve Shishoy.
Roy.
Roy. Oh man, boy, that would have been
close.
It's almost like it's rigged. No.
Steve K out of YouTube.
That is.
Steve, I'm glad your last name's not Sharoy.
No, it's Karoy. His last name is
Karoy.
Karoy.
Okay.
Steve Karoy out of YouTube.
All right,
Congratulations,
Steve.
Steve K. Sweet.
Oh man, what are the odds of that? Yeah. All right, so real quick, while Chris is putting some color preserver on, we do this show every single year, so you can go back 5 years, 6 years.
Has it been that long?
I think this is 5.0, right? Big Finish 5.0. Anyway,
Sure.
we have tons of video content on the different types of epoxies and thread finishes, but just to recap real quick. So, essentially there's 2 different versions. There's technically 3, but so there's a high build and there's a low build / light build, whatever your preference is on calling that. There's also a medium build, which is kind of exclusive to ProCoat. So ProCoat has a medium build and a high build. The differences between those types of builds is going to be, as Chris referred to earlier, the viscosity. So it's the thickness of that finish, meaning a high build is going to have a shorter pot life. It's going to have a little bit less working time as opposed to a light build or a low build or even a medium build that has a little bit longer working time, but also takes longer to cure. So you kind of have trade-offs with both. The great thing about ProCoat medium build is you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get, kind of the in-between of the best features. Now, there's also, 1-part finishes. Threadmaster has a 1-part thread finish. There's also permagloss, which is kind of its own category, so to speak. It's a somewhat of a not a difficult product to work with, but it has its nuances to where you have to be in a ventilated room. Don't do this in anywhere that's not going to have good ventilation. It is kind of a harsh product, so you have to be careful what you use around it and how you're working with it. But it has its benefits too. So high build, low build, medium build. Application-wise, high build is going to be very popular on your saltwater rods or even your heavy freshwater or inshore rods. Anytime you're trying to knock out, a thread wrap or trying to apply epoxy to a thread wrap in maybe 1 or 2 coats, you're going to want a high build to kind of, facilitate that. If you're wanting to do multiple thin coats, that's where your light build or your medium build comes into play. Fly rods, freshwater rods, ultralights, mainly on your freshwater side is your low build. Not saying you can't use a low build or a light build in saltwater or for saltwater rods, but they both certainly have their place and can be used in both, but high build is more frequent in saltwater.
Yeah.
What else we got? I think that covers it for epoxy. Anything I might have left out? Obviously, you got the different brands.
Paying attention.
Yeah. So you got ProCoat, we got FlexCoat, Gen 4, extremely popular in the past few years. Lots of good reviews on it. I think that covers it for the different types of finish. Threadmaster 1-part epoxy. Yeah, I can't think of much else to add to that. So when it comes to actually mixing up your finish, we use syringes. We measure by volume, not weight. I do not recommend measuring by weight. That's going to throw you off. I'll say it.
Yeah.
I'm not
I mean, I
afraid.
say it too. It's just,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Everyone's got their own opinion. We're up here talking, so we can have ours. So when you are mixing your epoxy, one thing you want to start with is a mixing cup, not to be confused with an aluminum dish that you will typically see the epoxy poured into before applying it to the thread.
Yep.
So with measuring out your epoxy, like we showed kind of quickly earlier, most of
You got to show the caps.
yeah, got to show the caps. So your typical epoxy bottles, they're going to be 2-part epoxies. They do not come with, I don't think any epoxies come with, but you should purchase these little plastic inserts, which we refer to as BCSI is the part number. 2 different sizes depending on the bottle size you have. These are very easy to use. You'll see the ribs here on the side. These just kind of pop into the top of the bottles and allow you to basically have a home for your syringe. Your syringes can live in these inserts. Some people take them out, some people leave them in, personal preference. I don't see any reason why they can't just live in here.
Like all of these.
This cap is self-sealing, meaning you pop this syringe out, that top is sealed. You're more than welcome to take one of the plastic caps and put that back on to protect it, but these inserts are sealed and you don't have to worry about any contaminants getting in there. Reason being, we typically leave the syringes right in the top.
That's it.
Let them ride.
Just as you see them up here.
When you go to measure out your epoxy, obviously you want to push that plunger down, turn your bottle upside down, pull out your epoxy. We typically recommend 3 cc's minimum of each part A and B.
Yeah.
You can certainly go down to 1 cc, 2 cc's of each, but your room for error is going to be exponential the lower amounts that you go.
And I also don't feel like I honestly feel that maybe 1.5, probably not, but more like 2 cc's in the mixing cups that we use, which is a very standard mixing cup. I feel like that 1.5 each or 2 cc's each is about the minimum you can get in this cup, where it fills the cup enough that when you start stirring that you're not left with like empty cup space, and then you start putting bubbles in it and all that. So, I mean, yeah, we could stand up here and be like, oh, you got to have 10 cc's of finish, and it's just for us to sell more finish, but that's ridiculous. It's not, we don't say like don't use 1 cc or 1 ml of each because we want to sell more finish. It's try it. It's actually harder to make sure that things are mixed. You don't really have enough finish in there to, get it like a nice smooth mixture going. You get bubbles in there and all that stuff. So maybe if you used a smaller cup or whatever. But honestly, when you start to get down under 2 cc's each of finish, so 4 total, it just gets to be such a pain to mix that it seems like 3 cc's for almost every rod that we do. Light inshore, some lighter offshore, fly rods, bass rods, all that stuff. 3 of each just gets it done.
Yeah.
And you got a little left over, but that's good because then you use it as a tester later to see if your finish is dry.
Exactly.
Rather than touching your rod.
Yep. So when you measure out, obviously syringes, make sure you are using either the CRB syringes that we sell. If you happen to wander out on Amazon or anything else, make sure you use silicone-free syringes. It's extremely, extremely important.
Yeah.
Silicone and thread finish do not mix.
No.
Not only do they not mix, they repel each other. So,
yeah, they really don't.
stay away from silicone syringes. So anyway, measure out at least 3 cc's of each part A and B. Dump those into your mixing cup. Take, as Chris mentioned, preferably a plastic mixing stick or the back of your disposable mixing brush if you're using a yellow or a purple one. As you're mixing, go slow, at least a minimum of 3 minutes, preferably 5. 5 is the magic number. There will be a lot of good comments on that one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or you can buy an epoxy mixer and let it do all the work itself.
Yeah.
You can actually let that thing sit in there for 10, 15 minutes. As long as that is still spinning, your pot life will, I'm not going to say it extends it, but it will, if your pot life is 45 minutes, in that epoxy mixer, it will still be 45 minutes. You're not going to shorten that time any.
Right.
So, quick tips really fast on the initial mix of epoxy. Go slow, do not whip it. Make sure you're not only mixing the inside of the cup, just going in the inside, but also get the outer edges of that cup and fold in that epoxy on itself. You have to get it very well incorporated to make sure it will cure. It's a very important part of it. So after your 3 to 5 minutes, preferably 5 minutes, you can take this cup of epoxy, and what we do, are you still using this?
Hey, it's your world, man.
All right.
I'm just living in it.
Get you some foil dishes. So
Yeah.
part number
I love those things.
Part number on this is foil D-3. We got a 3 and a 4-inch size. These are incredibly useful. You can also use some aluminum foil, whatever you want to, but these are really cool because of the sides on them, right?
Right.
Take your epoxy that's in the cup, dump this into your
Still got some good flow there.
into your aluminum dish. Now, this isn't just to kind of transfer vessels of our epoxy. This actually has a very big advantage. What this is going to do, and not only do you pour it in there, but what I like to do is actually kind of move this epoxy around to where it coats the entire bottom portion of that aluminum dish. That's going to create more surface area. That's going to pop almost all, maybe not all, but most of your bubbles that are present in that epoxy. And it, again, will also help your pot life, and it won't, shorten it at all.
Because it's just like if you, and test it at home. Mix up a batch of epoxy and leave it in a little tiny mixing cup, and this is all 2-part epoxies. All 2-part epoxies generate heat when they cure out. So mix some Pro Paste or Pro Glue, mix it in this cup, and mix it in that cup and let it spread out and touch them, see which one generates more heat, and see, you're going to lose that in there. Careful.
Cool.
And then also see which one lasts longer, the pot life in the cup. So when you are able, like you said, when you're able to spread it out like that, you get your bubbles out, and you do that stuff. And it also depends on, what your beverage is for the choice of the night. You can use some hot breath on the top of that foil dish.
Just give it a little.
There, give a little ha-ha, and that'll run those bubbles right out of there.
Once you get to this stage, you should be able to look in that aluminum dish, and there should be very, very few bubbles remaining. So that's kind of the very quick how to, depending on what type of epoxy you want to get, and also the mixture process, measuring and mixing and all that good stuff. This guy, the old bottle warmer, especially this time of year.
Yeah, and climates that I have nightmares about. This bottle warmer is great because you can set it on your workbench. You can put your epoxy, your 2 bottles of finish in it, put water in it, set the dial, do all the different things that you need to do. Get your brushes ready, get everything ready to go. Give it 5-10 minutes, let this thing come up to temperature. It brings your epoxy up to temperature. And it's really, we're not boiling the epoxy in this, right? We're only getting it out of the temperature that maybe it is in your garage, in your house, whatever. We want the epoxy to be curing at a normal room temperature, not maybe what room temperature in Milwaukee, Wisconsin is this time of year, but we're talking, in the mid 70s and up. That's where we want this epoxy to be able to last and cure. Plus, it will measure out much easier. It will flow easier. You will get less bubbles if the epoxy bottles are warm when you draw out of them. It will be night and day difference. So use that. If you don't have this and you really need to get something done, take a bottle of finish without the syringe in it. You can leave your little cap on, put it in the microwave, do it for 4 seconds. Just 4 seconds, and then take it out. And then do the other one, 4 seconds, and then take it out. And that will allow a little bit of warmth to be brought to that finish, and then it'll help it flow. So I like using the epoxy bottle warmer because you can use it constantly. You can always have it. You never have to run back and reheat anything or whatever. But if you do get in a pinch, you can do that. So, yep, that's it. Appreciate you, Justin. That was good.
So we talked about different types of epoxy, measuring, mixing, and we got to talk about brushes. I know you are pretty particular about your brushes.
Can be.
I think you're a disposable yellow 1/4-inch brush guy.
Yep.
But obviously, we do have a bunch of other ones. Like there's a 10-pack of those.
So the yellows are going to be considered a 1/4-inch brush. I use this brush just on a day in, day out for pretty much everything. Okay? When I start to get into saltwater builds where I have long under wraps, like this guy right here. So, I mean, I don't know. We're looking at maybe that probably a 6-inch under wrap or whatever. It's probably the length of like a dollar bill. If I'm going to put finish on this, and then I am also going to transition up the rod and be putting finish on big roller guides and different things like that, but especially if I am doing my under wraps up the entire length of a rod. If you've watched any episodes here, I put finish on my under wraps and then I do my guide wraps on top of that. So I will pull out a wide brush, like one of these ox hairs, okay? But I also, now these sable brushes, Hunter, you pulled the kit, right?
Yep, that's the assortment kit, 4 sizes.
All right. So this is the red sable assortment kit. Just waiting on you, Uncle Phil. So this right here is the assortment kit with the red sables. These are the ox hair brushes here. Come in a number of different sizes as well. But I am going to use one of these wider brushes. And all I'm going to do is it's going to allow me to move finish over a wider stretch of thread than something like this. So, I mean, you can look here at the difference. And this is the small ox hair. Sorry, I want to put it on my shirt so you can see it. Yeah. So you can see the difference there. Little 1/4-inch guy here. And this is just a wider ox hair, right? So we do that. If you are going to get nice brushes, this brush cleaner here has been really good to me for years. Now, again, we can go back and forth on what you should and shouldn't clean your brushes with, whether you want to use acetone or you want to use lacquer thinner or you want to use, I don't know, right? But this I know works. And it's not like that you're going to go through 100 gallons of this a year. No. So if you're going to spend some money on your sable brushes, like even the ox hair brushes are really not that expensive. They just have a wider footprint. And if you don't do a lot of offshore rods, you can get bigger brushes that are disposable and you don't need that. But if you like the ox hair and you like a nicer brush, just get you some brush cleaner. And then also Hunter likes to use our aluminum cups, right?
Huge fan.
So really, really nice. You can put your brush cleaner in here. And this really does a nice job and, you know, a little less waste.
Yeah.
Right?
You can, you can mix epoxy in those. You can clean your brushes. You can do all kinds of things, but they are obviously reusable, which is cool.
Cool.
Real cool.
All right. So let's show, you want to push a little bit of finish across that big one? You want me to do it or you want to do it?
Go for it. You're the
okay.
epoxy
How did I know
man.
that was going to be? All right. So, you mixed me a fresh batch.
I did mix you some finish.
So. Okay. Some of y'all were asking about drying, putting finish on at a higher speed. So this is current, the drying switch on the RBS Pro G2. So we turn it off, we move the belt. Oop, I gotta get my pedal. Forgot about the old pedal.
So the cups are stainless. Those are stainless steel cups.
So, yeah, right? I don't know why. I dropped this thing the other day, and that was just great. That's on me. Sweet. Oh. Why don't we just do it live?
Yeah.
That's what they said. I don't know why I messed this cord up. Cool. You want to come over here and hold this?
Sure.
Just don't touch your tongue to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here, hold it. All right. So I'm going to take a wide brush and we can dial it however we want, but we can start with that. We'll put some finish on the brush here. And I'm going to kind of get it started, and then we'll push a bead across it. This is the only time that I don't have it coming at me. You can also see we wanted to do a little color change. With the color preserver, or no, I'm sorry, the non-color fast thread. Hunter, you're going to have to buy me another G2 after I dropped it.
It's okay.
Well,
I know where we got a couple.
I know. Oh, I was trying to be nice and move the stuff for the guys, and then of course. But it's not even the head. I messed up when I pinched that wire.
So if you were to do this with one of those little 1/4-inch disposable brushes, I mean, it would have taken you 3, 4, 5 times the amount of time to put that epoxy up there and spread it out.
And honestly, what I like too is I like to be able to go back and forth the way I am now and really make sure that I have the right amount of epoxy on there and not just like, that's how we get the waves, right? If you have too much epoxy on there, that's how you get the waves.
Yeah.
So if you feel more comfortable coming in with a smaller brush on the edges, or if you're just doing it normal, right? I'm going to use my hand as a rest. And I'm going to run my edges like that, right? So we're going to run the edges like that. And you do have to be aware when you have some of those ox hair brushes, you can get a hair.
Or two.
Or two. But it is easy to pull it out. Just don't walk off and leave it.
And one thing we didn't show, which is kind of a usual, is you can trim these brushes. So whether it's disposable,
I'm going to show that.
you're going to show it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Little pro tip there.
Yep. We can actually just push a little more off. And you can see it. I'm just catching it in the cup. Cool. All right, you can switch it back over to dry, sir.
Well, in the mail, I just got a really cool tool that we should have had up here that we forgot because we just have so much stuff. But the hand and tool rest.
Here, I'll slide.
Yeah, here we go. So this is a really cool one. I'm not going to take it out of this nice, pretty box here. But If you need help with a steady hand, whether you're turning grips, whether you're applying epoxy, the hand and tool rest is a really good tool to accomplish that. Essentially, you can see that steel bar on the top there is where you're going to rest your hand. And again, applying epoxy, sorry I'm moving on you here. Applying epoxy, turning grips, this is going to mount to your RBS tracks. And obviously can be used in conjunction with the Pro stands and the G2 wrapping head to give you a steady hand
Yeah.
when you're building rods.
Sweet. All right. We need to check that. I think your color preserver should be good because it doesn't have like the sheen out of it, or the sheen on it. I think you're going to be good.
Looks dry.
Let me show the brush cutting situation here. All right. So earlier this evening, I cut a brush. All right. Let me show you what we're talking about here. So one of the brushes has a really, really nice edge right here on it. And the other brush does not. It's pretty like scraggly. It's got a couple wild hairs out of it. Okay? So what I like to do is, Justin, I'll come right here down on the edge of the table so you can see that. I get a razor blade most of the time. I don't typically do it with scissors because I feel like the bristles move away from the scissors, and it's really frustrating. You just don't really like get it all that great, right? So I'm going to take it. I'm going to set it on the table, and I'm going to use a razor blade, and I'm going to trim that brush, right? I'm going to roll it and trim some of these wild hairs. You can pull them out with your hand, but I like to trim it. Gives a nice sharp edge. Hang on, there's one there. Let me get that guy. All right. And the more you cut this brush, the stiffer the bristles are going to be, right? So if you want one that's like a lot stiffer, just trim it a little shorter, right? Sometimes you got to roll it a little. Make sure you get a nice edge. Of course, I'm also doing this way out on the edge when I probably would do it closer to my body. But so then we are left with that guy there. It's a little better. Let me get this hair out of here. Yep. A little shorter, a little nicer, right? So we're cleaned up. So I like to do that with my brushes. It allows me to put a little more force on it and not spread it out as much. It just doesn't get real splayed when you go to put pressure and lay it out. So
yep.
I'm a brush cutting kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just does a better job.
It does. If you're at home, if you are one that struggles with getting clean edges, straight edges, I guess I should say, play around with the brushes if you need to, cut them, because that's a very common cause of people that might have, edges that are kind of wavy, is your brush is kind of, like you said, it's splaying out, it's not straight, you're not getting a clean edge. So try that trick, or even go up to maybe a sable brush that's going to have a more defined edge to it. It's not going to have all those wild hairs like you said.
Put it on that one.
The other thing is you need to be finishing at a higher speed.
Yes.
So if you want clean edges, you can certainly apply finish on a 9 or an 18 RPM dryer, but the higher speed you go, the cleaner edges you're going to have. So give that a shot too. So what do we got here?
Just put a little finish on that guy right there. That was the one that we put some color preserver on. It should be enough time.
Is there any left here? Oh, that one's empty.
There might be some in that one.
That one?
Yeah.
All right, so the first one you did here,
Yeah.
this one was a mix of nylon and looks like Color Fast.
Yeah.
No CP to either. And then you added CP to both of these?
Well, the one doesn't need it, but yeah, I did. But yes, I did. I might touch on a couple questions here. We had got a bunch in here. We haven't. So I think I saw a question in there about the speed that I was finishing on. So I had the dial on the RBS Pro G2 with the pedal fully pressed. I had it dialed to 60. Now remember, that 60 does not mean that it is spinning at 60 RPMs, okay? That just means that is how much power is coming through the system to turn that head, all right? So I had it turned to 60. If you notice here, we are looking at Hunter putting on finish on the top, over the top of the new Generation 4 Vivid Color Preserver. The thread on, hang on, we got a plunger in the way here. Yeah. All right, sweet. So this guide here on Hunter's right has no color preserver, but there is a nylon and a color fast thread together. This thread work that he is putting finish on right now is the exact same color as this right here, except it has Vivid Color Preserver from Gen 4 on it. So, question on the hand and tool rest. The hand and tool rest does not have rollers. It fits into the track system with T-bolts. So this is actually a pretty, it's really, really sturdy. It does not have bearings and stuff on the bottom. It is T-bolts, yet this system, you can pivot it, you can slide it up and back. So that way, if you need to adjust like where your hand is in relation to what you're working on, if you want it at an angle, you can actually pivot the entire hand and tool rest on an angle. You can slide it in, you can slide it out, and that's why we don't have rollers on the bottom of it. So, yes. Have you ever used a spatula to apply epoxy? Yes, we have. We have a pretty good spatula set. I know a lot of people that do it. I have always been a brush person. The spatula is really nice for super sharp edges, and you can actually lay that spatula right alongside your thread work there, and it does an incredible job. I just don't do a spatula, and we wanted to talk through brushes tonight, so maybe we'll just have to get the spatula show out as well and show everything that we can do with that. Yeah, I like that. Matt says, I guess the kids are going to get less presents. I've got some buying to do. Matt, the good thing is like, just, you can buy it for yourself and then just use the excuse that you're also buying your kid some rod building stuff and get them involved with you there. And then y'all can sit down and do a little rod building together. So, absolutely. How you looking over there, Hunter, man?
You're pretty good. Just letting it chill, That's one thing with epoxy. Like, I don't really get in a big rush.
I don't think you get in a big rush to do a lot of things.
All right, well, why would you?
Right, exactly. Oh, okie dokie. Let's see. This question, Chris Wilhelm, does thinned epoxy cure faster? No, it actually cures slower. You're going to increase your working time with it, so it is going to cure slower. So, all right, Hunter, man. So we talk a lot about yeah, go ahead and use that, cover that up. I'm going to clean some of the stuff up here. I want to talk about, we were joking earlier about, what happens when you have contaminants flying around in the air. There's quite a few people that I know that are like, oh, I'm going to use a heat gun. Well, I will say you are going to really, really, really want to make sure that you've got no dust in that workshop, no cat hair in that workshop. Because if you do, you're really going to blow contaminants all over the top of your rod that has finish on it. So we need to get the CRB drying tent involved, right? So watch your water down there. So the cool thing about this tent is, now keep in mind, this is only half of the length of it, right? Actually, let's push this a little forward. Okay. and then we can work it on here, because otherwise it won't stand on the table. So the cool thing about this guy is it has a footprint that will go over your entire wrapping station, okay? It's a situation where, again, this is one half, right? So the other half, tunnel connects, you got Velcro on these flaps, and what it does is fits over a triple dryer. So the CRB RDS tri-dryer, it fits over. It fits over the G2, right? It fits over your roller stands and all that stuff. So again, if you've got dust flying around, if you're, if you turn handles, if you do stuff like that, if you have anything that might be in the air, pet hair, dander, things like that. It's even really, really good if you have something like confetti.
I knew that was coming.
And it keeps it out of it. So it is Hunter McCamey's birthday today, everybody. So Hunter is 32 years old, an old man, and it even keeps
confetti,
birthday confetti off of your finish. So here, help me lift this guy up here.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Yes,
that's awesome. Look at that. Nothing in your
all
red
good,
finish.
all good. So
that's awesome. I was waiting for
No, we're not singing.
I was waiting for it.
We're not singing. Nobody's singing. So anyway, that is CRB drying tent. And it's great.
Got some of my water over here.
Well, we figured it was part of the celebration. All right. So, since we're excited about the CRB tent, why don't you go ahead and buy somebody one?
Okay.
And we'll give it away.
Let's do it. Second giveaway of the night. CRB drying tent. Let's keep a winner. What we got?
That's it. I thought it was pretty good where everybody came in from the war room and everything. You started to get very cautious.
I knew
when you started.
Was like,
people started filling in.
Yeah. Troy Fairweather. Got two easy ones so far. The third one's gonna be hard. I know.
I think so.
Two YouTube winners so far, though. Congrats, Troy. Good prize there. CRB rod drying tent.
Yeah, that is fantastic. All right, cool. So we have shown you what Gen 4 color preserver does. It pretty much acts like all other color preservers, but for those that are a big fan of the Generation 4 products, I'm sure you're going to love the Vivid, right? In general, Hunter, you want to give us like this is kind of also what we use color preserver for type thing?
Yeah, definitely. So as you can see here, the first wrap that we did on this side, the darker thread color here is nylon. Next to that is kind of an accent trim band is the Color Fast version. Neither of these have color preserver. On the second demo that we did, the one that I applied finish to, Chris actually has applied color preserver to both of these. Now, with any Color Fast or NCP thread, you technically do not need to apply color preserver. Although, if you are working with a nylon thread, that is typically not treated to retain its original color. It will darken. So, the main thread wrap here is nylon thread that's been treated with Vivid color preserver. And then next to it, again, is a small little trim band of Color Fast. As you guys can see the difference between this darker shade of purple, which is the nylon not treated with color preserver, compared to the nylon that is treated with color preserver, there is a drastic difference in shades of color. The nylon that's not treated with color preserver is going to darken significantly, which, depending on who you ask or personal preference, that's sometimes a look that you want to go for.
Yes.
AKA, Chris and I are very big fans of nylon thread. Not only does it kind of give you, obviously you can test it ahead of time, but what I like doing is, picking out a unique nylon thread color that maybe I'm not familiar with, and kind of it being a surprise to where, in the end result, you get a color that it's kind of a mystery. You don't know how dark it's going to be, what it might look like. It also will typically give it a little bit of a translucent look, which, depending on which shade you go with, whether it starts with a dark shade or starts with a light shade, again, it's kind of a mystery at the end.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go the nylon route, but you don't want that surprise at the end, you can certainly do a test run. What we typically do is we'll do a small little thread wrap on a piece of scrap blank, and you can take like isopropyl alcohol, just get a little dab of it, apply that to your thread wrap that's not treated with any color preserver or thread finish, and that alcohol will, do we have any we can just show real quick?
What?
Isopropyl?
No, but you can use this guy. But I don't have any thread wrap.
Yeah, that's true, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you take that untreated nylon thread, add a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to it, it will give you a very good representation of what that thread will look like if you apply thread finish to it. So you can kind of do a test run to see what that nylon will look like after you put thread finish on it. But like I said, it's kind of cool to, see what that mystery shade of that darker color might look like on your,
right?
Yeah, so.
Why not?
Different approaches there depending if you want to go the color fast or NCP route, or you can go the nylon route and have the choice of either not applying color preserver or you can apply color preserver. Yeah. So different options there.
Sounds good. Will you mix that finish for me?
Mm-hmm.
While I get to talk about why I don't like color preserver.
Okay.
So let me switch sides with you here too, because I want to point something out. So, and also when you said something about translucent, right? Like
yes.
being able to, so you kind of see the guide foot. We're gonna need like about 10x zoom coming in here with so you can kind of see the guide foot under this one a little bit better, rather than this one here. Now you can see it, but you're just kind of looking at like the outline of it. When you have lighter colors over lighter or even darker blanks, it does get even more translucent, and you can really kind of tell a difference. I'm going to pivot this just a little bit. Here's where the fun part starts. So I don't use color preserver on anything that is going to be structural, right? The reason that I don't, and I think this sort of shows here, I'm going to show you the tunnel, okay? You can see finish that's kind of coming out right here, right? Is that all we got in the zoom? Or we got one more? You're going to have to also go to the other wrap too. So make sure you got both wraps in thing.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's finish coming out from underneath here, right? There's just a little bit of dot of finish. That's really good right there. And that's as close as we can get? Okay. So there's finish right there. Come down here to this one that had color preserver on it. There's no finish there. You could just see, I'll move my, trying to kind of rock it back and forth. You can see that there's no finish coming out right there, right? So to me, that means that that finish really isn't penetrating all the way down to the blank, because I don't see any finish right here in that little cave right there. There's no finish right there. But right there you can see finish. See it right there? If you could really, really see it, you'd be team no CP, I promise you. So anyway, that is just another reason of why I don't typically ever use color preserver. So I do use color preserver on, decorative stuff if I ever do decorative. But I also, the color preserver is nice for those that do some of the decorative stuff, because it also like gives you like a little bit extra hold, right? So if you're going through after you're done burnishing and tightened everything up, you can do some color preserver on it without having finish on it. It'll kind of give you a little bit of a hold, especially if you like want to cut off all your wild tag ends and do your trim bands and stuff like that. But to me, I believe that the color preserver can prevent the epoxy soaking in all the way to the rod blank. Not saying that it's a guarantee, but I think it can do it, especially, I mean, that thread wrap, I spent way too much time on it because I knew it was going to be on live. So I had it packed tight, I had it burnished, and you could see where we thinned it and put a, quote, sealer coat in there. That foot wicked that finish down that tunnel, it filled that gap, and now we've got finish in there. And whereas, I mean, you even used heat. I saw you with the alcohol burner.
And I put too much on, just like I said earlier.
Yeah.
You always think you're erring on the sign of too little epoxy, and then it's always more than you need.
Yeah.
And that's a great example right there. I can see the waves in my epoxy. I know I put too much on, but
even you putting
doing a
too
live
much
show
on
here.
didn't get it all the way to the blank.
no, it didn't.
So,
Mm-mm.
you know, anyway, that's just me, right? That's just me. Now, to kind of finish the show out and do something silly, I need another brush. Do you have another yellow brush, or did we?
Yeah, just open up that pack.
All right, fine. You're paying for it anyway.
I know we got a lot more of them.
Yeah. So I was just going to do something silly because I was like, oh, I got this, color preserver. And so I dialed up the speed and I put some color preserver on this red nylon. And I didn't know if, and I put it on like not totally. I kind of striped it. And I put one, like some dots on one, and I striped this one. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this. I have never done this before, and I apologize if somebody is already doing this. I did not steal this from you. If you are doing it, kudos to you, because it really kind of looks cool. I have, like, again, I hadn't done this before. I didn't know what it was going to look like, so I figured I would just go out on a limb and do it all live on the show. And if I was going to fail, I was going to fail on live. It's the last show of the year. But I don't know.
I think you got a cool little idea there. I can't imagine.
Has anybody else done it?
You're the first one to ever do
I
it.
can't. Yeah, I can't. That would be ridiculous, right?
Like you almost get kind of a very simplistic kind of tiger wrap vibe out of it. Sick. Love that.
Yeah. So what I did is I spun the RBS Pro up, and then I just took and dipped the brush in the color preserver, and then I just, as the power wrapper was spinning, I just like touched it. So it really just put like drag marks, and that's why you see why it kind of tapers, like the stripes will taper because it was spinning. So I hit it, and when I hit it, it drug it. So I don't know. Is that coming across like decent on the thing? So
it's pretty dark. It's not as dark on the camera as it is just looking at, over your shoulder here.
yeah.
But you can definitely see the stripes on it.
I don't know. This one has dots on it. I don't know how this one. This was me like messing around at first. I didn't know what it was going to do. I don't know if this one's going to. I mean, it's going to show, obviously. I just didn't know how much it was going to show. So there, maybe we have another, I don't know, maybe we have another use for color preserver. Or I should say my first use.
I was going to say, I'm
color
glad
preserver.
you said it. Chris finally found a use for color preserver.
Sweet. Yeah, that one had a bigger, there were some dots and.
This is the polka dot one.
Yeah. This was like the first. I was like, put some dots on it. And then I was like, I think the dots kind of look not as cool. And then I was like, oh man. I was like, let me mash this thing and really get it spinning. And then I figured I could get it to. And now this color preserver has been on here a couple hours because when I was doing the wraps and stuff at the show. So I don't know, man. That looks pretty cool. Is that even in focus? I mean, I want to make sure that y'all can see this because this is. Other way. Yep. There you go. So anyway, man, I feel good now.
Yeah. A little tough when the background has is red in it.
Yeah, right. You slide up here with
Yeah,
my
there you
blue
go.
shirt, right?
That's a little better.
The glare. I don't notice the glare. Try to. Oh,
Careful
No.
on that heat.
I got it. I got it. Just the blank just goes. Yeah. John, do what? He says he does it. John, you're a liar. That's cool. Up. There it was. Hang on. Did it last year under a tiger.
Oh, under a tiger.
Ooh. We always got a one-upper in the group, everybody. A one-upper. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so yeah.
That's pretty cool.
There you go. I don't know. It just looks different.
And very little effort. I mean, there's
Well, thank you, Hunter.
not I think that's the point of it.
Yeah,
Right?
of course it is. Yeah. I did that one under power. I did the one with the dots on it, not under power, and just kind of like, I just dipped the brush and dropped it and then just kind of like manipulated it around. But the one with the stripes, I did it under power, and that's why it was like tapered out, because it was like, you know, you just take it and touch the brush to it, so then the brush hits it and then it drags it, so it's like a brush stroke. Combined it with marbling? All right, you guys.
Whoa.
Nobody is ever pleased. You know, I just can't please everybody. Like,
Hey,
oh,
cool,
Chris.
cool idea, Chris.
Yeah, that looks really cool. Why don't we just make it a lot harder than you ever thought of doing it? So, sweet. All right, cool. Mike, thank you. When are you going to do the 7 minutes of question and answer?
Glad you asked.
Glad you asked, because I know we need to get y'all out of here. It is 8:12 Eastern Standard Time. Throw that. Oh, that looks pretty good. Throw that one up. He's got it. Justin's working on that Zoom. Hit me with that one real quick, then we'll get out.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Ooh, All right, cool. All right, let's do the, David said, remember, Chris, there's always someone that can pee farther. That's it. I mean, you know, that's it.
Yeah, I guess.
This is all in good fun. I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. But yes, you're exactly right. I have no idea. There could have been somebody that's been doing this for 20 years that's now like, that Chris is going to take, he's going to take credit for all my work. And all. Nope. Not doing it, brother or sister. I will absolutely name you if I knew that it was a thing. I just, you know, it's just color preserver and thread. All right, here we go. So let me go back to the starred questions. We got a bunch of them. Uncle Phil, you're going to put 7 minutes on the clock and try to get everybody out of here before Christmas?
Fire Q&A.
We might have to do 2 rounds. All right, the opening round. Let's see. Yeah, Jeff, we hit that. What's your position on color preserver for guide wraps? Does that limit guide wraps to no CP? I don't like it. Color preserver for guide wraps. And no, it doesn't necessarily limit you to only, you know, no CP thread or color fast. You just might have to live with the color being translucent a little bit. You might have to think outside the box a little bit. Does color preserver offer any UV protection, Hunter? Say on the metallic thread.
Not that I'm aware of. That's where your thread finish is going to come in. You know, if you're looking for UV protection, you're going to get that out of your thread finish, not your color preserver.
I'm with you. Jeremiah, just finished the last coat of epoxy for the Chris Adams fly rod I built with my 7-year-old son.
Nice.
And can you show how to get a straight line at the end of the wrap with epoxy? Jeremiah, sorry I missed your question earlier. That I try to do the like 2-hand method where like this hand is on the desk and that hand's got the brush. So imagine if this is not on top of this like that, right? If you're not using a power wrapper, I try to use that to kind of stabilize it. I also cut the brushes. If you cut the brushes shorter, that means that they will splay less. So if you try to press that brush down and it goes like this, those brushes will go whoop out on the rod blank and you'll get a little bit of wave. But if you cut them shorter, they'll be stiffer. So let's see. Hunter, are the real seats, are they painted or are they solid white?
They are painted.
They're painted and gloss, right?
Correct.
Okay. So yes, painted and then glossed. Let's see. The finished rods, Judge, are just a challenge for yourself. The finished rods, I believe you're talking about the competition. That, I think those go to the ICRBE, right? The finalists? You don't know? Come on, Jake.
I think
they do. Well, Kevin, who's in the war room right now, you might have to jump in here with the answer to that. So the rod building competition, those rods do go to ICRBE, and then that's where you guys, if you don't announce the winner before there, you either announce it there or before and then have those on display, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Something like that.
Okay, sure. Well, if that's not how it is, maybe they'll do that this year, but I think they already do that. Let's see. Yeah, Craig, so he built 6 fly rods for a Christmas gift, and his thread finish is wavy, and he can't seem to get that down. Like we talked earlier. Do multiple coats, do less. Oh, look who it is. Out of the war room. So was I right?
Kind of.
Okay. Well,
It goes to ICRBE.
Yep.
And it is showcased there. There's a group of judges there that give us the
Okay.
top 10.
right?
Those top 10 then come back to home office.
Okay.
in the veto, and then the final judging happens here, and that's where we make the determination
Okay.
of the top 10.
So both. So they go to ICRBE, so comments off camera. The rods go to ICRBE, get a top 10, people vote, then the rods come back. So everybody that's at ICRBE gets to see a lot of cool stuff. Then they come back here, final judging happens, and then we announce everybody, and then we start cutting checks. So that's pretty much how it goes. Let's see. I'm not sure if he was asking about you or Jake, that he said, has he made Mudhole a lot of money on TikTok yet? I think he was talking about you, Jake. I don't know, John. I think he's trying to get OFR started, only fishing rods. So who knows? Like maybe Jake really is making a lot of money and is not sharing the wealth. I don't really know. We'll see. Maybe that's why his hair is the way it is. It looks like it's just it's just going. Let's see. Happy birthday, CK Watson. It's his 40th.
Nice. Happy birthday.
Yeah, Craig, what's the best rod finish? Man, that's some fighting words, brother. That is some fighting words.
Subjective.
What I would say, though, is pick you a finish, and if you like it, stay with it. Or buy another one and do some testing, right? Any new rod finish that you get, test it. Do not sit down and be like, yeah, I'm going to put rod finish all over this brand new rod that took me all this time, and then, ooh, man. This is really funny. Chris is going to have people breaking their keyboards rage typing. I don't think so. I think they kept it pretty clean tonight, even though they might be stomping around their house. Let's see. Bill, how do you sterilize the dropper? I really just use the denatured alcohol, run it through there, make sure that there's nothing inside of it, nothing contaminated. I don't go like too crazy with it. Let's see. Just got an order from Mudhole. Keep making Christmas merrier. That's exactly right. Okay, Bob. The reason that we use the alcohol burner is because the denatured alcohol burns cleanly. Really quick, can we get a zoom on this? So hold that for me. Right here on the back. If you have a Bic lighter, okay, let me show you what happens. You're going to see the smoke. Uncle Phil, you still alive? Sweet. Zoom in on that right there, right here. Can you see the smoke that puffs off of there?
It's tough.
Not too. Anyway, when you light a Bic lighter, you get a puff of smoke. That puff of smoke, if you were to light it over the top, could y'all see that on camera or no? No? Anyway, when you light a Bic lighter, you're going to get a puff of smoke. And every time you get a puff of smoke out of that Bic lighter, it will get absorbed into your finish. And that's what you want to avoid. That's why we use an alcohol burner. That's why we use a torch, burning butane, a little bit hotter. It doesn't do it. Now, you can, if you want to hold your Bic lighter, light it like this, and then come back here and give it a little bit. Just don't go underneath it, right? Stay behind it. Just don't go underneath it, okay? I know your dad still uses a Bic lighter, but if you light it underneath it, it will blow smoke all into that. Let's see. You know, Larry, this is a good question. Can you use the Vivid like the Flex Coat to make the marbling stringy?
Haven't tested it.
Yeah, we haven't tested it.
Possibly.
It has to be, and it doesn't say what's, yeah. Because the Flex Coat is an acrylic, and that is what does it, right? Yeah, the acrylic polymer in that is what does it. So it doesn't say if that has it or not, but I don't really know. Let's see, unmixed, how long is finish epoxy good for? He's heard a year. What do you think?
Usually 1 year shelf life is kind of the standard. And even when your epoxy, as Chris mentioned earlier, goes to kind of an amber color, that does not mean it's bad. Typically, when you mix those two together, the hardener is usually the one that you'll see the most color variation with. It doesn't mean it's bad necessarily.
I know
always...
the time's up, but we're going. So you can run it again, but we're going to try to go through a few of these.
I ain't done yet. Do a test batch. If you have an epoxy that's been sitting on your shelf for a year and a half, do a test batch, mix it up, put it on a piece of scrap blank. If it dries clear, if it dries solid, come back the next day, it's all well and good. Yeah. Use it. If not, toss it, buy some new stuff.
Yep. I might have missed this. How long should you wait between coats? Robert, what you're going to find is if you use, this is just not 100%, but it's from what I have found. And I don't know I can't give you an exact time, but a high build thread finish has a shorter pot life and it will cure quicker. That finish you can do, you can come back over it quicker than you can on a light build. The light build has a longer pot life and it takes longer to cure. So, but you do not have to wait for that thread finish to be fully cured out. You do not have to wait 24 hours. Some of these you can do 6-8 hours. You can come back in and put another coat. You can also wait a week and come back. You just have to make sure that there's not dust and lint and stuff, or if you went out and fished the rod and then you realize like, man, I really should put another coat over those guides. You need to come back and you need to clean it really, really good to make sure you have, any fish scales or any contaminants on that finish. You don't necessarily have to sand it or anything like that, but I would wipe all of your other finish down before you come back in and put over another coat of finish. So don't sweat it too much. I wouldn't come in here after like an hour and a half and try to put more finish because that original finish is going to be too tacky and it's just going to get weird. You'll probably booger it up. But, if you do it like I do it and I put on the finish at night and then the next day wake up, you can wake up and put another coat on.
Yep.
So you're good to go. Let's see. How does humidity affect finish? Captain Dave, I have never really built rods in very, very low humidity. But our humidity is in the 90s, like on the regular. And when we are working and drying and all that, I never have really caught wind or got word from somebody that's like, my epoxy cured in half the time, or it took twice as long when I went from no humidity to high humidity. It's really going to be more dependent on the temperature. You don't want it to be curing in a room that's like 45 degrees. The only thing that is humidity cure is going to be permagloss. So the higher the humidity, the permagloss like kicks quicker. So you might have to wait longer in between the permagloss coats than if you're, in a no humid environment as opposed to South Florida. So I just have never really seen it where it's like, oh no, well, we have no humidity today, so my finish is going to take 15 hours to cure. It's going to be either user error or temperature. Let's see. Does the motor have to spin at 100 RPM to apply epoxy like many say to do? Anything that is high speed, which I would consider anything higher than 9 or 18 on a regular rod dryer, You might think that 100 is too quick for you. If you have a power wrapper, I would experiment with it. Dial it up and just do it quicker than, I think this one's got a 9 on it right now. So this is 9 RPM. You can mash the pedal and then use the dial on your RBS Pro G2 and dial it up and dial it down with the pedal all the way to the floor. And that will give you a speed that you can go, okay, that feels manageable. Now, whether that's 72 RPMs or 118 or whatever, you know, it's infinitely adjustable, really. I mean, you can dial this thing up so fast that it'll sling finish off the rod, and you don't want to do that. But you can dial it way, way down too. And if, you know, something like 30 RPMs is better, then use that. But no, there's not a like, you got to do 100 or you're not doing it right. Let's see. There was a couple in there about the... let's make sure that we have the part number in for the mixer. Do you remember that offhand?
EM1.
All right, EM1. So there it is. I should have known that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's an easy one.
Yeah, well, you know, I like to get you every now and then, you know. CK Watson said he puts the bottles in his pocket while he's getting everything set up. It warms them up nicely.
Interesting.
All right. Well, CK Watson, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. EM1. Let's see. So this question, do you tape the wrap ends to keep the epoxy off the blank?
No, I don't personally. But.
No, I don't either, because I think that you can put a little too much trust in that tape, and then you can expect it to be perfect, and then you go to peel the tape off and found that it's crept under the tape. And if it creeps under the tape and then you pull the tape off, it's going to look 10 times worse.
It's a mess.
Than if you just like have a little bit of wavy finish, honestly. How about them butt wrap measuring tools back in stock?
Still going to be a little bit on those. Looking at probably like early spring arrival.
Early spring.
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to hit you with that.
Of course.
Sold out on tents?
Mm.
You know. Sounds like the demand for them was pretty intense.
That, I think it's time to go.
All right. Was that just a single coat of Vivid CP? Yes, that was a single coat of Vivid CP. I don't know. I don't use color preserver a lot, but I have only used one coat. I make sure it's a good coat, but I don't glob it on there. We put color preserver, we put the Vivid CP on, and exactly 30 minutes later, we put finish on it. Seems to be just fine. It did its job. The color's right. It kept the epoxy from getting down to the blank. So it did its job, right? So 30 minutes in a, you know, room temperature room. So I don't know. Some people say they like to wait 24 hours, things like that. That was just a live real world test at 30 minutes. So, and that was, I didn't put a coat on before we did the show. So let's see. And yes, does using light build epoxy accomplish the same thing as thinning? Almost. Chuck, I use light build a lot, and I use light build, put it on, use a little bit of heat, and it absorbs in nicely. So it's kind of the same thing. It's why light build was developed, but it's not the exact same. So, all right, what do you think? Is that it?
I think so.
Bad joke and just, you know.
20 minutes of rapid fire Q&A.
That's it. We'll do this one really quick. When should you sand the coat? So I don't typically sand a coat of finish. And if you do, you have to make sure that it is rock hard cured. This is not, like, it needs to be cured to fish, not just cured enough to put another coat on it. Because if you hit that finish at high speed with sandpaper and it is not 100% fully cured hard, you will gum it up and you will create a mess. So if you want to sand it, knock yourself out. But, and you might have to if you find an imperfection or a, you know, like a bug's in it and you got to cut it out, or you got a really high spike from a bad tag in. I wouldn't sand it because of like a spike. I would just cut it and then just, you know, I would just shave it out and put new finish on it. I just don't sand it a lot, but if you're gonna sand it, wait at least 24 hours, not just like the 6 or 8 hours. So yeah, that's it. Now, we need to give away that rod before everybody gets out of here.
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
Where's it at? Yep, Jake didn't make off with it yet.
Not
All right,
yet.
so let's go ahead and give away this fishing rod. Because I know everybody's dying to get out of here. It's 8:30. We figured with the last one of the year, we just would keep you all a little bit longer. So we told Mom to hold off on the Hot Pockets.
Ah.
All right, time to let her rip.
I'm going to call it a YouTube sweep.
You think it's going to be a
I
YouTube
think
sweep?
So. I think so. Oh. Boom. Marcus Kent. YouTube sweep.
All right, Marcus.
There it is.
Marcus Kent. Congratulations. Now, any winner, anybody that has questions, anybody that has constructive or non-constructive criticism that wants to send an email into the show, it is live at mudhole.com. So send it in there, Marcus. Hopefully you're still, I mean, he would have to be currently live for the winner to show, right? Commented or currently be live. Okay, I got you. Well, good. All right, Marcus. Well, hopefully you're in there, my man, and send it live at mudhole.com. Thank you very much to all of the winners this evening and all of the watchers. We made it over 500 tonight, so that was good. Great, actually.
Great.
And you know, actually, we had a YouTube sweep, right? Jennifer Logan, if you are still with us, that is Facebook. Uncle Phil, can you put Jennifer Logan in the comments there for a gift certificate? All right. Jennifer Logan, coming out of Facebook, will get a gift certificate since we had a YouTube sweep tonight. So, anyway, that is that. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Now, we will be doing, our next show will be in 2024, which is hard to fathom. What's the date on that? 23rd? Third, maybe? Yeah, 23rd, I think, of January. We're doing the same, scheduling. We'll have 6:30 Eastern. We are going to do, we're going to do epoxy ramps, right? Isn't that what we agreed upon? So we're going to be doing epoxy ramps. Pretty cool show. Yeah. Something different. We've never done it before. And yes, there is a mullet minute dropping before the end of the show. Oh yeah, there you go. Ramped up rods. All right, cool. Well, Uncle Phil, whenever you'll join us here. So episode 106, Thursday, January 23rd at 6:30 Eastern. Ramped up rods. So we're going to be doing that. And as I was saying before, the mullet minute will be dropping Thursday, December 21st at 5 p.m. on Mudhole's YouTube channel. If you follow us around on all of our socials, I can assure you that Jake will be reminding you of that and putting up links and reminders to run over to the Mudhole YouTube channel on December 21st, which is Thursday, in a couple days, at 5 p.m. for the mullet minute. A lot of cool stuff in there. He's been working hard on that one, so we got to give it up for him on that. If you guys have any questions on the products that were shown on the show tonight, over on the website, we do have hang on. Jennifer, you claim it with, live at mudhole.com. Send an email into live at mudhole.com. That's how you claim it. And then that way I'll get your email address and all that stuff because our gift cards are digital. Speaking of gift cards, if you are a procrastinator and Christmas is coming up, you can still buy a gift card.
Yep.
And it's digitally.
Yeah. Gift certificates, rod building classes are a great gift.
Yeah.
Whether it's an in-person or a virtual or remote class. Last minute gifts, there's plenty out there. Gift cards, can't go wrong with a gift card.
No.
But rod building classes are just as good. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The guys in the war room tonight, We had Steve and Kevin and Cool Man was in there. Hoffma was helping out with the comments. I know Birdman, I think we gave Birdman the night off tonight, right? I think Birdman was the night off, but you know, he's always working and doing all of our graphics and stuff like that. Of course, we had Jake in here for doing some social stuff, right?
Well, why was Jake here?
Yeah, right. What are you
Just
still
kidding,
doing
man,
here?
just
No,
kidding.
and of course, we had Justin on the Zoom all night working hard. Uncle Phil was on the ones and twos. We got to get out of here, and I think Steve's going to get mad if we don't finish these wings off. So Hunter McCamey as my left-hand man. The birthday boy, big 3-2. We're going to take him to Chuck E. Cheese tonight.
Yes.
And hopefully win him some tickets and get him some like erasers and some candy and stuff. We're going to get him all hopped up
I'm gonna
on
win
Fun
all
Dip.
the tickets.
Yeah, on Coca-Cola and Fun Dip.
Skee ball. And
Yeah, exactly. I am going to kick your butt at skee ball. All right, let's get out of here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for the big finish show of 2023, and we will see you guys next year.
Thanks for watching.
Have a good one.